I do have this is an honest question for you. Um, why did um, why did Granny Dingo change? Because in the beginning, I kind of got the feeling that she was going to just be this like doofus character, and then
Well,
now then,
uh,
or is it just because you wrote her and then realized, man, I could do a lot with her?
well, yeah, because that's part of it. Because what I try to do is when I create a character, I try very hard to go, okay, this is the core, and however it evolves, it's still true to the core, right? But every now and then, as the universe grows and I start putting these characters into situations and they start doing things that, that you go, oh wow, that was cool. We've talked about that as
Yeah,
writers. Sometimes you go, I want John to do this. Well, John didn't do that,
yeah.
right? Because the situation he was in, he acted like that character's going to act. Well, so when Granny Dingo first shows up, it's in them Trailer Park Witches,
Mm-hmm.
and I agonized over that name, because I was afraid that people, because that was one of the first stories I put out, and I was afraid that people go, them trailer, this guy's an idiot, right? Well, no, it's them Trailer Park Witches, and the line in there is them Trailer Park Witches have done that, right?
Right.
So, so anyway, I wrote her as she was going to be, she was trying to take those the Brousseau sisters and make them more than what they were, right? So she shows up and she's like, look, y'all, and basically that night she shows up and she's floating in there. She goes, y'all are a bunch of freaking idiots. You're always going to be idiots if you don't, I've made a mistake teaching you any magic because you're idiots is basically what she's getting at. And then she was wearing black, I think. She was
Uh-huh.
more traditional, the old crone. And then there was another story I put her in where I'm tired of all the. I just want to be left alone. And I think in that one I had put her in some slippers, right? Because I thought that was
Yeah, there
that
were
was going to be.
there were two stories where she was just the typical witch, and then she came
Yeah,
out in the pink velour tracksuit and slippers.
yeah, right.
I don't
So
remember
so
which one
here's
that
what
one is.
happened. I was trying to think, how can I make that everything in Nevermore is it can't be normal, right? That's why it took me so long to write vampire stories. I couldn't figure out a different way of approaching a vampire. That's why I've hinted at zombies, right? But this one, the haunted junkyard, is the first time you see zombies in Nevermore Hollows because you can't do zombies. They're either fast, they're either slow, they're either kind of smart, or they're dumb, right?
Raven
Well,
had
I
zombies.
kind of say what?
Raven had zombies.
See, I like that. I like that. And the zombies that I've created to get it started, it's different. It's a different approach. So to answer the question of Granny Dingo, I was like, how do I take that character and make it? Because I was starting to get when I wrote about the Brousseau sisters, I was starting to feel. I was starting to find my voice. I hadn't found my voice completely yet, and that was a risk for me writing them the way that I wrote them, very, and just totally embracing the trash, right? That was one of the first stories where I'm like, I'm just going to embrace the redneck trash and I'm just going to run with it. So then I got to thinking, I was telling Chris, I was like, Chris, I think I missed an opportunity with Granny Dingo. And he was like, he goes, I like where you're starting to take her. She doesn't want, she just doesn't want noise. But Chris kept wanting to try to make her good. No, evil is evil in Nevermore Hollows. Evil is evil, right? So I was like, she's got to be evil, but I'm okay with her helping out for her own self purposes, right? Hence the line in the last one we saw her. She goes, when in the Drug of the Damned, where the boys are like, wait, you help us all the time.
Yeah.
And Ivan's like, you read the Bible, and she goes, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I just want quiet.
Right.
But basically what she's saying, I will kill you if I have to kill you, I will kill you. Right. So Chris was like, well, you've been embracing, by this time there was more stories where I was getting bolder in the trash. Okay. He goes, trash her up. And I was like, well, how do I trash her up? And he said, put her in a pink velour suit. I was like, oh my God, so okay. Okay. And that's kind of that's when we tipped over to define her more clearly.
Right.
So everything has in Nevermore Hollows, everything has to be over the top or different and here's the thing, okay? Literally, the Brousseau sisters are my 3 aunts. Literally. When I wrote it, my sister called me up and she goes, "You just wrote about Kitty, Ruthie, and Beth." And I went, "Yes, I did." So, these are people I know, man. Look, I grew up in a trailer with no running water. Okay? It's a true story. I know these people. That's why I write about them.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right.
So it's kind of like, and then we'll finish this. It's kind of like what I was telling you when I created Psycho Juju. When I recorded that the first time, it was just me going, everybody freeze. I was like, I'm missing something, man. Let's make the character.
Yeah.
And let's just be bold. And if people get it, they get it. If they don't, either way, I don't want anybody to go, "Oh, been there, done that." I want people to go, when they come away from Nevermore Hollows, I want them to go, a couple of things. I want them to go, "Holy shit, what did I just listen to?" Right? And then I also want them to go, "I've never heard anything like that." And I want them to go, "I know people like that." Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry. So we can finish it up.
All
so
right.
we can,
Yeah, before we use up all your hours.